Oh, hi, I'm Amy Stevens. You're about to learn one of the world's most baffling pieces of magic, the newspaper tear.
If you came here to see a magic show, I got some bad news. I'm not actually a magician. I'm an illusionist who creates the illusion of being a magician. It's a technicality, but it's important because the fact of the matter is I don't have magic powers. I'll show you what it means to create an illusion using a newspaper. So, if you were to watch close, I could create the illusion. I could enter your brain. I could influence your eyeballs to the point that you might watch and think you see paper being torn. No. That is, of course, merely an illusion. I have entered your brain. If you listen with your ears, not with your eyes, listen with your ears, you might even think that you hear the sounds of paper tearing, when in fact, no paper has been torn. I'm just that good. I'm just that good. In fact, this is what I work out for. Oh yeah! If you were here in person, you might even smell the paper tearing. That is an olfactory illusion. And in fact, I would even offer a taste of torn paper to fully convince you that this paper has in fact been torn before your very eyes. But it is all a lie. I did not tear the paper at all. Thank you. No, see, here's my actual job as a magician. For the next 45 minutes, I just need to convince you, with all your senses, to just go along with it. Because if you play along, well, then maybe we can have a bit of fun with nothing but a newspaper. And that's how magic works. Oh, hi, I'm Ryan Pilling, and I'm here to kind of, but not really, talk to you about newspaper tears. In fact, I had this beautiful premise for this video. I had this intention, this mission that I wanted to lay out this motivational presentation for magicians across the world. And boy, I was feeling pretty good about myself until a few minutes ago, when I was pulling references off the shelf, just almost as props for this video, and it rocked my world. Let me tell you, because Stephen Minch, author of the collected works of Alex Elmsley, among many other great magic books, Stephen Minch stole my premise. He ripped off my premise, and he had the gall to do this to me over 30 years ago and put it in print. The nerve of that guy. Let me read you what he wrote. This is in the introduction to Alex Elmsley's Torn Restored newspaper. So a newspaper is torn to pieces, then is magically restored. Several good methods exist for achieving this effect, but when Gene Anderson's newspaper tear was prominently performed a few years back by Doug Henning, magicians seem to lose sight of all others. It is rare to see anything but the Anderson method performed these days. This is to be regretted, as several of the prior methods had advantages well worth considering, not the least of which is Al Coran's, to which the Gene Anderson method owes a considerable debt. It goes on. But that is really the point I wanted to make, is to ask that question: why are magicians overlooking everything other than the Gene Anderson method? That was written 30 years ago, and I still think it's true today. Because when I see this all the time. People go on a magic forum and they ask the question, hey, what's the best torn and restored newspaper? Sorry, I'm just waiting for Robert Bax to pop up when you ask that question. No, people ask what's the best torn and restored newspaper, and the answer is Gene Anderson. Now, To be fair, well, it's been 50 years since Gene Anderson's newspaper tear. There has been a little evolution with Robert Back's method, the no-tear method, the Axel Hecla newsflash. I kind of, even though there is innovation in there, I think it's all within that box of the Gene Anderson method. So when I say Gene Anderson method or Gene Anderson tear, I'm kind of referring to all those together, which are very much built on the same chassis as the folding and all that stuff. So why is it always the Gene Anderson method? Why is it Coca-Cola when you have a soda, right? It's the market leader. And I think it's the market leader because it's the market leader. So when people ask that question, what's the best torn and restored newspaper? Someone comes in and says, oh, you should get Gene Anderson or variation of Gene Anderson newspaper tear. They're answering that because 4 months ago, they saw someone answering that question with Gene Anderson's newspaper tear. And 6 months before that, someone answered that question. And it's just kind of handed down like a tradition amongst magicians to say that the best newspaper tear is Gene Anderson's, and you feel good about yourself for saying that the best, because oh, this person who I respect said it was the best tear, so I say it's the best tear. Did you do your research? And I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy nut when I say that, but maybe I am a magic conspiracy nut. Did you do your own research, people? There are hundreds of ways to tear up a newspaper and put it back together. If you answer that question, what is the best way to tear and restore a newspaper? Me? I would want to believe that you have actually tried a dozen or more of them. I do not believe that. I don't believe that there's that integrity behind the answer, but there should be. There should be that integrity. You should try different ways to tear and restore a newspaper. The version that I showed you at the beginning of this video comes from Alan Shaxon. Alan Shaxon's Tearing Up the News, published in his book Practical Sorcery in 1976. The question that Stephen Minch asks or proposes is, what are the trade-offs? What are the pros and cons? Why did I end up choosing this version? This is something I did in my show for a long time. Why did I choose it? Well, compared to the Gene Anderson one, Gene Anderson's is built for a broadsheet newspaper, the full big newspaper. Those are harder to find these days. It's more likely that you will find this tabloid size newspaper floating around. So just the sheer practicality that this is something you can pick up. The freebie newspapers are often printed in this size. Easy to find. The other point of practicality, where's that? Hang on. Let me grab the one that I restored earlier. This is a beautiful thing about the Alan Shaxon newspaper. Is I just do that and do this. Not showing you anything. Look away. Get that. There. You saw nothing. You saw nothing. But the fact in that 30 seconds or whatever, I'm set to do it again. It is a reusable newspaper tear that you can do over and over. So if you have multiple shows in a day, oh, it's a thing of beauty. Let me tell you. In fact, so credit where credit is not due. I didn't learn this tear from Alan Shaxon. I actually learned this originally from it was a VHS originally, it was then DVD, the Joel Bauer Torn Restored newspaper. Turns out, I found out years later after doing it, it has nothing to do with Joel Bauer, except that he does it. He is entirely doing Alan Shaxon's newspaper, Tearing Up the News. No changes whatsoever. And he wasn't taking credit. He didn't know who it belonged to, but he put out a DVD anyway. So Joel Bauer does talk about on his DVD about the idea of when he's doing a trade show, they have the little trade show handouts, and they are often a magazine size printout. and he said this version can be done using the magazine size, whereas the Gene Anderson wouldn't physically work. It wouldn't have the weight to do that unfurling restoration. So I had never tried this before, but considering that newspapers are on the way out, I'm open to alternatives. So for the first time today, I grabbed a magazine and tried the Alan Shaxon Tearing Up the News. Let's roll the clip. So far, so good. There's the part that's obviously a little more finicky here. So we'll see how this all unfurls. There we go. So that went better than I expected, honestly. By the end of it, the pieces are smaller. It's getting a little more finicky, so it would take a bit more practice to get that as smooth. But still, the pop open worked all right with a smaller page. So maybe that's the hope, because it's harder and harder every time to find a newspaper. But maybe these little, real estate magazines or community living magazines, maybe that's the saving grace for the torn restored newspaper. It really is a beautiful practical tear. Not only does it reset right away, also, I couldn't tell you the number of times that I made the original, the first gimmick, in the front seat of the car while waiting outside for the show. Many, many times. So it only takes 3 minutes to prepare the thing using very basic materials. A glue stick. Another fun fact I learned, again, just mere minutes before recording, or I realized, I should say, that I believe, even though it's not credited, I think there's a direct line from Alex Elmsley's tear into Alan Shaxson's tear. I think Alan Shaxson was inspired by Alex Elmsley. And let me show you, let's look at the clip on this. So this is Alex Elmsley doing his, what is commonly called a slow motion restoration. And just notice his goal of his version was to prevent any folded edges from being seen. That was kind of he wanted there to always be a torn edge as he restored the paper. So take a look at Alex Elmsley's restoration.
16th, I think. Not only is the man a magician, he can do sums. Now, I want you to imagine that we're tracking back in time. It's in 16ths, but before it was in 16ths, it was in eighths. And before it was in eighths, it was in quarters. And before it was in quarters, it was in half. And before it was in half, it was whole.
So you'll notice, even though it's slow motion, there's that final pop. Doesn't that look familiar? Doesn't that look like the final pop of Alan Shaxson's? I think it is. I think Alan Shaxson took Alex Elmsley's video and Alex Elmsley's version and cut out all the slow motion. I think that's all he did. Now, since we're talking about the whole contrast and compare, just to do our research, let's contrast and compare that ending with the gold standard, the Gene Anderson tear, done by none other than Gene Anderson, who does it beautifully.
You don't seem to believe me? You take a look. Remember the pictures?
So this idea of exploring the wide world of newspaper tears has been floating around my head for a long time. And so a long time ago, is going back almost 10 years, I think, I started doing this project of trying to record just different versions of newspaper tears. I'd see one in a book, I'd actually try it out and record it. Yeah, I've been this way a while, is what I'm saying. So let's take a look. I found this old clip This is a young Ryan. Here he is doing Lou Brent's Torn and Restored newspaper. Roll it! So this one is a single sheet piece of paper. You can see, the book recommends the tabloid size paper to make it less bulky, as he says. So it's definitely reminiscent of the famous Neil Foster center tear. Tear out the center of the paper. And, oh, wait, no. There's a shootout at the local morgue. 17 remain dead. Really do whatever you want to do with this piece or these pieces. And you take these pieces, tuck them into the folds of your newspaper, and back in one piece. And that is Lou Brent's Torn and Restored newspaper. Again, pros and cons to that version. But it's something I'd never seen quite like that before. It's definitely unique. I bet you haven't seen that version before. I've never seen anyone do that before. But it's out there. And you need to explore that. So why does everyone do the same newspaper tear? Why does everyone do Di Vernon's routine for the cups and balls? And when I say everyone, that's a generalization, obviously, 75% or more. Why does everyone do Di Vernon's routine for the cups and balls? Why does everyone do like fiber optic rope routine, which is also Daryl's rope routine, which is based on George Sand's rope routine, but it's all one rope routine. Why? There's others. There's other routines. Try them out. Learn something new. And just that little effort, just the little stepping off of that mainstream path, you can become a more unique magician. You can be doing things that people have never seen before. Not that it's wildly original, just that it's a little extra effort. Because man, let me tell you, the hurdle that little extra effort is, it prevents so many people from stepping off of that main path. It's worth it. It's worth that little extra work to go and grab a book and try something that is unproven. Because I think that's why. I think that's the motivation. So why magicians overlook all these other versions and go for what people say. And I think it's why people even ask. It boggles my mind that people go on a forum and ask, what should I do in my act? It's crazy to me. But I think the reason they do it is because they're looking for safety. They're looking for that safe trick that's guaranteed to work for them. It's not. There is no such guarantee. But they want that peer confirmation from other people. If enough people believe this is good, maybe you'll believe it's good too. But if you're doing your own thing, then there's all that self-doubt. I'm not sure if this is good, and there's no one telling me that it's good, so oh boy. You have to take that risk. You got to take that leap, take the chance, and do something that no one else is doing. And who cares if it works? Because you're just doing your thing. So, that's that. That's what I have to say about the newspaper tear. I don't think you should start on the newspaper tear. I think the newspaper tear is going the way of borrowing an opera hat. So thanks for watching this long ramble vaguely about newspaper tears. The whole point of this magic homework series is just to get into the books, to dig into the books, to actually try things. Now, I kind of cheated a little bit because I've been trying the tearing up the news for over 10 years. But hey, I still got to try it with a magazine, which I've never done before. But the point is, there's a lot of stuff out in the books that is undiscovered and unproven and untested, and it works. For the most part, they put it in a book because they thought it has potential. So at least one person believes in it. And if you read it and you try it, that makes two. And together we can do anything. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time on Magic Homework.